Sorry for the wait, Mr. Flores. I am ready to take you now.
Grim Fandango is the second game I've played developed by Double Fine Productions. In 2015, Broken Age was added as the free monthly title for PlayStation Plus. I didn't take to the game straight away, but I especially enjoyed its quirky, cosy charm and the smooth visual aesthetic of its world design. Fortunately, it's this game that alerted me to Grim Fandango, which had only been recently released as a remastered edition earlier that year. When I looked into it, the conversation amongst writers and creators that I followed and trusted expressed great excitement about this remaster, citing it as a hallmark of the adventure game genre, which gave me a greater confidence that I might enjoy this title more so than Broken Age. I was instantly captivated by it, as it was unlike any game that I'd played before. Up to this point, noir wasn't a genre I had much exposure to in games or any other medium. I'd heard of authors like Raymond Chandler, but post-apocalyptic fiction and games were certainly the order of the day back at this point in my life. So, when I was transported to its smoky, Art Nouveau heights, it was hard not to be swept away in its story. In Grim Fandango, you play as Manny Calavera, a smooth-talking post-life salesman who is down on his luck in the afterlife. There's not much to set up this game other than a brief cinematic, poking fun at the novelty of the Grim Reaper and the business in which Manny is employed. This is the Department of the Dead, where the afterlife is just one sales pitch away. After that, you just have to get in there and explore the various levels of the underworld. Looking at the graphics first, Manny and the majority of his supporting characters have been retextured and remodeled for this remastered edition. Minor changes have been made to their character designs, increased polygon counts, remap lighting on the characters and sets, and an overall improved interactability with the world, which gives the game a smoother veneer. It's never perfect. Not every character has received this treatment. Models don't always interact with their environment with seamless transitions, and occasionally textures can pop out or misalign on screen. Embedded in these visuals are some really thoughtful and juxtaposing motifs, instances of the developer's self-aware artifice. Skeletons who breathe smoke when they take a puff of a cigarette, sweat when they use a punching bag, and most of all, sprout flowers when they die. I love this theme most of all, the act of dying in the underworld represented by the flowering of new life. It gives the end game a real sinister connotation too, when Manny is surrounded by fields of flowers as far as the eye can see. None of the visual nouveau flair is lost in the decades since its first release. That's because the art direction in the first place was just so excellent. The Mexicana meets 30s noir America is a wonderful atmosphere to be amongst. It looks like a place that would smell of dense smoke and strong booze. They knew what they were going for, and they nailed it. Yet some environments do bear the signs of their age. Designed as static plates with the characters move across, the transition from original to remaster has left some spaces looking jagged or just out of place. It doesn't interrupt the game flow tremendously. It's just worth noting that not all elements of design have been readdressed in this remaster. Altogether, the visuals are supported by a wonderful score from composer Peter McConnell. The composition, evoking big band sounds with its rich bass notes, warbling saxophones and melancholic trumpets, creating a wonderful jazz mood. It's an oral treat, with characters and locations supported throughout the narrative with evocative leitmotifs. So the music is killer. What about the voice acting?
Buenos días.
You're not the nurse?
No?
You're not here to give me my medication?
No, but I am here to ease your pain.
Guess they couldn't save me, huh?
No, but there's still a chance you could save me.
This stuff is excellent. It's clear there's real chemistry going on between the actors of Manny and Meche, and the supporting cast sound perfect too. The French roulette attendant, the sleazy hustler lurking in the casino, the office secretary with her broad New York accent, and finally Glottis, who sounds exactly like what the demonic incarnation of Speed would sound like.
Oh yeah, slam the front into the weeds, tub the rear end, dual blowers popping out of the hood.
Let's talk about Glottis for a bit. I love Glottis. He's the comedic relief for Grim Fandango, but also a highlight because of his charismatic and sincere personality. His character development is one of the greatest across the game. Starting out as a mechanic cramped inside the Department of the Dead's garage, his butt too large to fit through the door, he soon begins to accompany Manny on his plans to rescue Meche. From here, he'll spend his time fixing up and modifying Manny's bone wagon, becoming his confidant and jazz-time pianist, a voracious gambler, ship's engineer, and finally revered as a greater demon of speed. His visual gags are often some of the funniest as well. Alan Blumenfield does wonders to give Glottis his whimsical charm and provides a great counterpoint to Manny's cynicism. Next to address is the story. Grim Fandango is set across 4 chronologically distinct years. It borrows many of its beats from classics of Humphrey Bogart's era of cinema. Manny, a suave, quick-witted businessman, is thrust into a narrative when fate crosses his path with the femme fatale, Meche. Convinced that she's my ticket out of here, he does everything to find her when she goes missing from the city, El Marrow. The resulting journey will lead Manny to the ownership of his own casino, the captaincy of a shipping vessel, in becoming a revolutionary in the Lost Souls Alliance and more. Throughout the adventure, Manny grows more pensive, less cocky and sure of himself, still driven to vie against the powers that be, but fighting at every turn begins to dampen his spirit. This borrows heavily from the tropes in the era of post-World War II cinema. The male lead, honest and caring, but with a rough exterior, is incomprehensible to the world and often misunderstood, becoming something of an outcast, struggling to find his place in the world. A woman appears, provides a glimmer of hope. Despite this, she's shrouded in intrigue and danger alike. It's a wonderful tale, with great twists and a thrilling pace to follow along with. The gameplay in Grim Fandango follows a basic routine which involves sorting through Manny's many collected items within his coat jacket, doubling up as a mythical bag of holding. Maybe he hangs all this stuff up on his ribcage, I'm not quite sure. The game's adventure is progressed through its many contextual puzzles. A typical solution will go something like this. Manny is asked by Salvador Limones to acquire messenger pigeons for the revolution before he's allowed to leave El Marrow. We can ascertain from the street that pigeons are hanging around on the rooftops. We can't immediately get to the roof, but by exploring for a bit, we'll come across a way into Domino's office, our business rival and part-time antagonist. In his office, we find a chunk of coral. We can attach the coral to a rope made from the ties which the boss of the DoD has used to escape for the day, presumably to the festival down on the street. From this, we can make our way back up to the roof. We found the pigeons there, but they attack us when we get close. Back on street level, there's a balloon vendor. He's impatient with us, but will still blow up a balloon for our kids. He shows off, producing a balloon rendition of Robert Frost. We scare off the pigeons with this balloon by placing it in an air vent and scattering on some bread we nicked from the adjacent stall. The balloon pops, we nab the eggs, presto. We have some new recruits for the Lost Souls Alliance, and we're free to leave El Marrow. Whilst it does give way to some genuinely funny interactions, this style of gameplay doesn't always flow well with the tone and theme of Grim Fandango, weighing down what is a strong and intriguing story. A great deal of time is spent matching combinations of items with interactable elements in the environment, which are sometimes very well hidden. Only half of the time will there be diegetic clues in the world pointing you towards certain answers. It slows down what is meant to be a frantic race towards saving Meche. Finally, as a wonderful treat for this remaster, the developers behind Grim Fandango recorded their thoughts and memories for this release, interspersing their dialogue into the very scenes and conversations which they directed, recorded, animated and scored. It provides a fascinating look into game development in the 90s, and a very salient dissection of what hidden efforts and moving pieces are at work when we play games. Like looking behind the wizard's curtain, so to speak. Grim Fandango is an excellent adventure game, which is an emblematic title of the interesting work that Double Fine Productions produce. I'd recommend it to anyone who enjoys modern, story-driven genres and titles, or anyone who has also enjoyed a Telltale games, for example. It wasn't a perfect remaster, especially compared to what other companies have done in recent years. But it didn't have to be. What was there to begin with was going to stand the test of time anyway.